photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they're so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
It's something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.
Hello and welcome to the judging of the fourth category of the 2025 Australian Photographic Prize. We're judging the open category. We're thrilled to have you join us from wherever you are around the world as we celebrate the incredible artistry and skill of photography. I'm Robin Campbell, the Foundation Director of the Australian Photographic Prize. I've been invited here on behalf of Daniel Bingham, the 2025 Australian Prize Competition Director. Also working hard to make the prize a reality is our Director of Judging, Chris Anderson, who's expertly curated the incredible panel of judges that you'll be hearing from today. Thank you also to Nathan Bingham, who will be expertly running our live stream, and Helen Bingham, our amazing scribe. Before we begin, we have a custom in Australia that we do at the beginning of meetings, and it's called the Acknowledgement of Country. I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which this event is hosted today. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. The Australian Photographic Prize would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors. We'd like to thank the following organisations for their ongoing support. Nikon Australia. They're a major sponsor and they are awarding our overall winner $5,000 in Nikon product. Thank you so much to Julie, Kylie, and the whole Nikon Australia team. We really appreciate you. Thanks to our division sponsors, AZO, who are sponsoring the 2025 Creative Photographer of the Year with an AZO monitor valued at over $2,500. Thank you so much, AZO. Thank you to KL and Godox for sponsoring our Classic division, and to Ilford for sponsoring our Single Capture division. Also, a huge thank you to Photography Studies College, who are kindly donating $1,500 scholarship on any course at Photography Studies College for the High School Student Photographer of the Year. And to Print Shop, who are donating a print consultation and 2 A1 prints worth a total of $500 to the Student Photographer of the Year. Please show them your appreciation by visiting their websites, tagging them in your posts, and letting them know that their support makes a difference. So, here's how this section will run. Each finalist image will be judged by our live panel, who will provide live commentary and feedback, and there will be challenges. Individual image scores will be displayed as we go, and at the end of the session, the winner will be selected offline by our panel of judges from the top 5 scoring entries. First, second, and third places will be announced during our live awards event next Sunday, the 20th of July, so make sure you mark it in your calendar and join us. We're now going to play the top top 32 awarded images of the open category. This is our preview. Thanks, Nathan. I now have the honour of introducing our wonderful Director of Judging and panel mentor, Chris Anderson. As well as being a national and internationally recognised judge, Chris was recently awarded the 2025 Asia Pacific Photography Awards overall Grand Champion. Well done, Chris. Over to you, mate.
Thanks, Robin, and hi, everyone. Welcome to the open judging. Judging has been so exciting. This is our fourth category, like Robin said, and the quality of images coming through has been amazing. The commentary from our judges has been just spectacular. We've been reading a lot of the comments people have been posting in the community page, and it sounds like everyone is really enjoying this too. So I'm here today to talk about the open category. So now the open category images can be any subject in any photographic genre. So we have the full access of post-production tools that are available to us as well. So images can be realistic, impressionistic, conceptual, pictorial, abstract, or narrative, which means you'll probably see quite a range of images coming through today. Now this is a spectacular panel of judges, international judges working with us today. So we're going to start with Amber Griffin. Amber is one of New Zealand's most celebrated creative portrait and commercial photographers. Now, she won Grand Champion at the Asia Pacific Awards a couple of years ago when I stole it from her this year. Sorry, Amber. She also has won New Zealand Photographer of the Year at the Iris Awards. Amazing dance and amazing conceptual portraiture. So welcome, Amber. Also from New Zealand, I skipped someone. Charmaine's not from New Zealand. She's from Queensland. So Charmaine is a Queensland-based portrait photographer, and her images are fabulous. She's a Grand Master with the AIPP. She's been the AIPP Professional Photographer of the Year in 2009. Now, a couple of years ago, at the Australian Photographic Prize, she won both the portrait and the creative categories. So that's just a testament to the level of quality of work that she does. Welcome, Charmaine. Craig is from New Zealand. He's been photographing as a pet photographer since 2001, which is sort of before it became super mega popular. He's based in Christchurch. He's a Grand Master with the NZIPP. Also at the Iris Awards, you might have heard me mention it before, about another one of the judges. They have every year they award someone the Ian Poole Judging Trophy, which is to recognize the judge that was the most impactful, and Craig won that last year. So that's, again, just an example of the kind of judges that we have, which is great. Welcome, Craig. Lisa Kurtz is a Meanjin, a Brisbane-based photo and video artist. Lisa's got a background in fine art, and she's got a decade of experience working on images that weave together people's history and their personal history and their collective histories. She's been a finalist in the Olive Cotton Award, the Percival Photographic Portrait Prize, and the Head On Festival. So she's got tons to her name. Really happy to have you here with us, Lisa. We've also got Mandarin Montgomery. Now, Mandy's in Melbourne. Her surreal landscapes, her conceptual fine art, her live performance photography, it's all very striking and usually manages to blur the balance between dream and reality. So, Mandy, it's so good to have you here on the panel. Naomi Ryder's from New South Wales. She's a portrait photographer, and she likes to say she has 2 geriatric dogs, 3 kids, 1 husband, 1 camera. She tells them all what to do, but only the camera listens to her. So excellent, Naomi. So good to have you here. And finally, Vanessa McCauley. She's a Victorian photographer, Victorian-based photographer. It makes it seem like you're wearing like Victorian costumes. That's not what I mean. She does all kinds of work, including school promotional images, concert and production photography, amazing portraits. And we're so happy to have her back on the panel with us this year. So with that out of the way, I'd like to invite our first image, please. And our panel today, we're starting with Amber, Craig, Mandarin, Naomi, and Vanessa. Judges, are we all good with scores? Excellent. We're all there. Thanks, everyone. We have an 84, a silver award. Great way for us to start the open category. Fantastic. Mandarin, I might come to you for a comment, please.
This is an absolutely stunning graphic image. The tonality is quite exquisite. There's a lot of softness to it, but we have a full range of tones. I scored it within that silver range for the technical skill and just the visual impact. Where I always love to see the image go a little bit further is that unexpected cookie. And while it's beautifully symmetrical, I would have loved to have seen something maybe to push it a little bit further, a human or something else within the image. But superb. Well done.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mandarin. Can we go to our next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have an 81, a silver award. Craig, you were right on the average. Could I get a comment from you, please?
Yeah, sure. I really enjoy this. I think the graphic at the top is really interesting and mirrors the landscape down below. I think some of that wispy white motion really kind of holds my eye down to the bottom, and maybe you could play with the dodging and burning in there a little bit to elevate the score.
Brilliant. Thank you, Craig. Can we have our next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have an 80, a silver award. Vanessa, could I come to you for a comment, please?
Of course. Look, I think the sense of anonymity in this, because we're her face is obstructed, we can't make eye contact with her, is we've got another element of depth which has allowed me to look past that, if that makes sense. And I can really see it being used as a magazine cover or some kind of a magazine project. So I think it speaks of the time.
Excellent. Thanks for that feedback, Vanessa. Could we have our next image, please? Excellent work. Thank you, judges. We have an 82, a silver award. And Amber, I'm going to come to you for a comment on this one, please. Well, Amber finds her mute button. Excellent.
Hi, Chris. Congratulations on the Silver Award. This is a really successful aerial landscape image. I was just searching for something else to give me a little bit more story or some kind of a narrative in here. And I keep coming back to the green containers or train carriages. But yeah, I think in order for the score to be elevated on this one, we just need a little bit more story in there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amber. Now I'm going to keep our judges rotating through. We have 2 judges in reserve at all times, and so we'll keep our panel fresh. So Mandarin, I'm going to give you a little break, and Lisa, let's bring you on for the first time. And then if we could have our next image, please. All right. Well, we have a 90, a gold award, which is pretty spectacular. And Vanessa, you're on mute. Are you saying you'd like to challenge? Because
Yes.
you're actually on 90.
Yes.
I think if we're going to give anyone the challenge, it probably should be someone who's a bit higher than that. So keep in
I'd
mind.
love to challenge, Chris.
And we're already on 90 as a gold because you're in the 90s range. Lisa, you can challenge on 92. So take it away.
Look, it's so engaging, and I felt really privileged to see this today. I think when we look at images, composite images, we ask ourselves, has every element earned its place? And I'm looking at this image and I'm not sure what hasn't earned its place. For me, if we could just all bring that just a little bit higher. I don't know, Chris, if I'm allowed to, I can't change my score, can I?
No, I don't like to challenge you. You're going to stay put.
I'm worried I've perhaps underscored. I was perhaps a little too conservative with my scoring. So if I could ask my judges to elevate on my behalf and really say to yourself, what it doesn't belong here, because I don't think I can find anything that hasn't earned its place in this image with this powerful, emotive, and very technically well managed image. So over to my fellow judges.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Amber, I'm going to come to you next, please.
Yeah, sure. I'm a bit of an outlier here. I have given this an 80, and the reason that I've scored it in the silver range is because from a perspective of craft with compositing, I just feel like this image is really let down. I really appreciate the portrait aspect of this image, and I think that it's a wonderful capture of this character, but the compositing of the sky into the walls and the water into the hands, and the way that the subject's ear has been really roughly cut out. I just really struggle with those craft elements to go any higher than a silver.
All right, thanks, Amber. Vanessa, you're in support up in gold.
Yeah, so I can see what you're saying, Amber, and look, possibly there's some technical stuff there that could be honed a little tighter. But I think when a story comes to you so boldly as this, you can forgive a little. This man is obviously, to me, it looks like he's in a nursing home. They've got the long corridor of walls. So he's contained to this place in his later ages in life, yet he's lived a life, and we've been given that plain to see in the little shelving there. It talks of marriage, it talks of love, it talks of possibly going to war, supporting Australia, it talks of a love of music and cricket. Just a little by thing, there's 7 ships on there. As he sailed the 7 seas, he's certainly been on a long and beautiful journey in his life. And I get all that in this brief moment in one picture. And you can see that it's moved me slightly, because when you get to that point in life, you want someone to listen to your story. Well, here it is, guys. Listen to his story and love that face and think, what has that man done in his lifetime?
Thanks, Vanessa. All the judges are pretty keen to talk about this. Naomi, let's go to you next.
Just finding that unmute button again. This has, when we're talking about a gold, we're talking about something that has outstanding image showing excellence in concept, craft, and impact, confidently original or emotionally powerful with few, if any, distractions. And I think this image undoubtedly actually ticks every single one of those boxes. There's this beautiful connection with a sense of place, a sense of his history and his story and his lifetime and where he is now. And he's proud of who he is, and he's got this beautiful, I think a sense of confidence within himself. And then you look further into the image and you go, yeah, this is why he's, in a little tiny snippet, we get this amazing broad sense of his personality and what he's accomplished in his life. And this is absolutely worthy of sitting in the gold. And I'm happy to move it up further than where I was.
Excellent. Thanks, Naomi. Craig, have you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'm down in the silver range with you, Amber, at 84, and I guess I'm struggling with this. I think that the portrait of this man and his life story is really beautiful. I can't get past, when we're talking about golds, some of the unresolved problems and the technical issues with the masking. And I don't get the blurriness of the bottom of the image with the water going into the hands, the actual depth of the image is kind of unresolved as well, where the subject of the portrait is sitting in the water and kind of fades away a little bit, and then the depth of the water is in the foreground, and then it goes behind him, and then it's through his hand. I just don't get this part of the resolution of the concept here. So if somebody can help me out with why that's like that, then I can come up. I still don't know if I can come into the gold range because of the masking issues, but I will definitely raise my score if you can talk to me about this editing work at the bottom.
All right, thanks, Craig. Lisa, right of reply.
Thank you to my fellow judges for raising those areas. I actually thought that the ear had, because that was obviously perhaps the first area to look into, and I thought perhaps the gentleman's ear had actually been damaged in war or perhaps later in life. So I didn't actually see that as a technical fault, because everything else in the image appears to be really well masked. So I actually thought that that was perhaps real in this gentleman's life. And it's just the layers. I think the fact that he comes and goes in between the layers is exactly that. This is metaphoric. This isn't real. There's the toy boats from childhood that he would have been playing with. Then he became a sailor, and then there are the heavens above him. And when you get to this stage in life, all of your memories and where you're going, it's all together. And I suppose the craft for me allowed that metaphor and that conversation to come forward. So I'm just asking my fellow judges, I don't know if we can all come up to gold with distinction. And I wonder if in a print it might have been more clear for us, do you know what I mean? And we might have been able to move to that gold with distinction. Sometimes images are better are viewed in printing form. But to me, this is magnificent on screen. And I ask my fellow judges to come up into gold if you're not there already. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. So, Lisa, you're going to keep your score where it is. Everyone else, I'd invite you to rescore, please. And we've moved up a point, 91, an even stronger gold award. So good job, Lisa, and well done, team. Let's go to our next image, please. If you're just joining us, we're judging the top 30 or 32 images in the open category for the 2025 Australian Photographic Prize. All right, we have an initial score of 84. I suspect we're not going to stay there very long. Craig,
let's hope we're not going to stay here very long. I think that this is a really powerful portrait. It has tons of emotion in those eyes. It's often said that drag queens are the clowns of the LGBTQ plus community, and I feel like this is a sad clown, and that it speaks to the way that society is looking at drag as a negative thing, that that drag queens are bad and evil and corrupting children. And I think that the sadness there in those eyes kind of speaks to the difficulties that the community go through at the moment. And I thought that was really quite powerful. So I scored it 91. I think it's been exquisitely lit and crafted as well. So yeah, I'd love to talk about it a bit more.
Thank you, Craig. Vanessa, I might come to you next.
I thought you might. So, look, I think the subject is just beautiful, and let me say to the photographer, the posing of the hands is really quite sensitively done. So that's beautiful. There's a texture over the skin that I don't find very flattering. And there's haloing around the head and the feathers that I find a bit distracting as well. So I was thinking with a crop, etc., a little bit of finessing, that it would probably come quite nicely up into the silver distinction kind of area, but just needs a little of attention for me to go there.
All right, thanks, Vanessa. Lisa, you were right on the average there.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the costuming, the makeup, the technical craft. It's been beautifully managed. The haloing behind did concern me a little bit, and normally those things don't bother me. But I think what it was is that we've got our subject in a whole lot of negative space, and in essence, by the haloing and by indicating that there's lighting, we're immediately taken back to this as a studio-based portrait. And I really want to. I love portraits that take us, we might know it's in the studio, but that we don't actually immediately know it's in the studio. And so I suppose I would love a little bit more conceptual rigor or something more to lift this. So I'm no longer aware that this is a studio portrait to take that into that higher range.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lisa. Craig, let's come back to you for a right of reply.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I think that if you think about the drag queen and the way that, you know, the makeup and the contouring hides the femininity here, I think a drag queen would be very happy with the texture on the skin on this portrait. It's very flattering and softening of those more masculine attributes. And yeah, I guess sure, there's a little bit of an issue with some masking at the top, but you know, all drag's a little bit rough around the edges at the end of the day. So let's have a rescore and see if we can get it some more points.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. Craig, you're going to lock your score at 91. Everyone else, if you could rescore, please. And we have maintained an 84 silver award. Excellent conversation, everyone. That was great. Let's go to our next image, please. All right. We have a score of 82, silver award. Naomi's giving me a big smile because she's looking for a mute button, aren't you, Naomi?
I found it by this time. Can I challenge this, please?
I would love for you to challenge this, Naomi.
This has got so much mood and so much movement and so much it represents that whole you know, when you're moving into a space and it's kind of like it grabs you and it sweeps you in and it makes you feel like you're kind of getting sucked into this whirlpool and this whole environment, which is, I don't know, to me, that's what an underground tunnel feels like. It does feel like you're getting a bit sucked into a vortex. I think it's just such a lovely, simple expression of that experience and that movement. And I actually the blurred figures waiting for this train to come in, and that circular motion around the top of it almost creates a question mark. It's like, okay, where are these people going to now? What's happening next? And I think this is definitely I actually think this is definitely worthy of a silver with distinction, and I'd love to see what anyone else would like to say about it.
Excellent. Thank you, Naomi. Lisa, let's come to you. You're down kind of at the other end of the scale, but not too far away.
Yeah, Naomi, I wondered if I'd underscored this. I undernard a little bit, and the notion of the vortex, the what we feel like when we are commuters, you know, of a morning on the morning commute or the afternoon commute. We wish we were somewhere else. We wish we could just jump on a super fast train, be taken away, and not go to work. It's visually striking. Naomi, do you know what my issue for not going higher? And let's talk. And I'm sure I look forward to our other judges as well. Is I wanted to see, it's the Piccadilly line, and if you go in and you look at the neon, you know, the sign that would have said, you know, Route 54 or Melbourne to Sydney or whatever it might have said, there wasn't anything there. I found that really unrewarding, and I really wanted to see the destination. Part of me thought maybe the destination is you make it up yourself, so it is dreamlike. But it felt so real, the rest of that train, that I really felt the signage and that the destination needed to be visible. So over to my fellow judges, and Naomi, open to conversation.
Thanks, Lisa. Amber, let's come to you next.
Lisa, I think I really appreciate the ambiguity of not having a destination in there. The other really interesting thing about this image is that the thing that would be the fastest moving in reality is obviously the train or the tube or whatever you want to call it. Whereas that is the still part of this image, and all of the movement is actually in all of the surrounding environment, which really should be still. So it's almost, it's just quite surreal like that. But I also wanted to draw attention to the very masterfully created compositional elements within this image. There's a really, really strong use of color with the bright yellow line leading up into the hero of the image. And I also very much get the question mark iconography in here with the it's almost like the dot of the question mark has sort of floated up to the top there. I gave this image an 83, and I'm going to come and join you in the silver distinction range. I think it's worthy of that.
Excellent. Thanks, Amber. Naomi, write-up reply.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. One of the first things that I did notice about it was with the LED display not displaying the name of the destination, and then you can see it on the train, and I went, no, I don't think it needs to be that literal. I think that this is a really symbolic kind of piece, and it's talking about emotion and feeling and experience, and it doesn't actually need to be a literal thing that's saying, hey, I'm jumping on a train and it's on the Piccadilly line. So I did question that originally. So that was definitely a really, really great point to bring up. And then I went, no, it's not. That's not the most important part of the image. The most important part of the image is the story and the emotion, the feeling. So, yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. That beautiful lines with the yellow line and the red line all curving around and creating this I guess sensation is definitely a hugely strong part of the image, and the train being still. So yeah, thank you all for having a chat, and I hope that you can all come up to silver distinction with me.
Thanks, Naomi. You're going to keep your score locked at 87. Everyone else, you can please rescore. You have good words, Naomi. We've got to 86, silver with distinction. So excellent discussion, team. That's fabulous. All right, we're going to take this chance to do a little bit of a judge change. Naomi, don't take this as a comment on your judging. That was an excellent challenge, but we're going to give you a little break, and we're going to bring Charmaine onto the panel. And then if we could have our next image, please. Thanks, everyone. We have an 82, a silver award. Congratulations to the entrant. Amber, you were bang on the announced score. Have you got some feedback for the photographer?
I do. From the perspective of a portrait, this is a really successful, almost androgynous feeling, beautiful classical portrait. I think that in the open category, it just needs a little something more to be included. Also, consider the amount of space that you give your subject at the top of their head. It feels unnecessarily large in this particular image, but it's a really magnificent subject, and you should be very proud of this portrait. Well done.
All right. Thanks, Amber. That's great. Could we have our next image, please? Waiting for your scores. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. We have an 86 silver with distinction.
Challenge, please.
Take it away, Craig.
So I'm just in at 91 on this one, for a few reasons, I guess. I think the craft of this has been really beautifully executed, and I think really what took me into the 90s is just the expression of this face, where you've got these huge lines of that smile, and the makeup is so perfectly mirroring those shapes, and the red nose and the red balloon, and just the way that the peeking through this slot is as if in a nod to a print competition where we're judging actually prints. It's like a little slice of a mat, and I can really kind of imagine myself on a judging panel of a print competition, looking at a print of this and marveling at how awesome it is in print as well. But in this form, I think it also really kind of speaks to absolute mastery of the craft. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys all think about it.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. Vanessa, you're on the other end of the scale.
Yeah, and I'm pleased that it's had a chance to be spoken about, because I sat for a minute trying to decide where to put my score. It's a great use of a matting board, by the way. I think, the peeking out, that looks to me to be matting board. My quandary was, what a character, what beautiful, well, and when I say beautiful eyes, the makeup, etc., is just exquisitely done. And then there's this real menacing character in the eyes, and I've been restricted to that much of the character. So I understand that they're trying to tell a story, but I'm disappointed because I want to see more of them. So I'm very much listening, because I really was a bit conflicted in where I wanted to put my score.
Thanks, Vanessa. Amber, could we hear from you next, please?
Yeah, Vanessa, I think that the fact that this character is hiding and only showing us that amount of their face really adds to the sort of sinister, creepy feeling of this image. I've always been a little bit terrified of clowns. I think that there was a horror movie back in my childhood somewhere that has always made me frightened of clowns, and I had an instant emotional response to this image because of the creepy clown factor. However, it's really amazing because it's got the creepy factor, but it's also got this like childhood innocence about it in some way. I gave this an 87, and Craig, I'm going to come up and join you. I just also wanted to draw attention to the very clever use of the repetition of circles within this image. I think that, everything from the little dots in the makeup and the nose right through to the circular highlight on the balloon, there's just a lot of attention that has been paid to the compositional elements within here. And the more I look at it, the more clever that I think it is.
Thanks, Amber. Craig, right of reply?
Thanks, Amber. I think that yeah, that sums up a lot of my feelings as well. I'm also quite scared of clowns. I think that hiding away here and just showing a peek is quite sinister, and it has obvious nods to Stephen King's It, and yeah, and people's thoughts about clowns are scary. I really love what you said about the shapes, because I think that the nose and the balloon and all of that stuff, the shapes is really beautiful. I love to see that little hint in the shadows there of the like collar of the clown as well. I think, yeah, this is just a very simple image to look at, but the attention to detail in this is absolutely exquisite, and we should be rewarding it with a gold for sure.
Thanks, Craig. You're going to keep your score locked at 91. Other judges, please rescore. And we've moved up 3 points to an 89 silver with distinction. So excellent result. Craig, we're going to give you some time to recover from your clown-based trauma, and we'll let you step away from the panel for a little bit. And Mandarin, let's bring you back on. And if we could have our next image, please. Ooh, well, we have a starting score of 83, which is a silver award, and we have quite a wide range of scores. So we're going to go into an automatic challenge. Now, in the automatic challenge, Amber, we're going to start with you. You get to lead off. You're not going to get a right of reply. You got to get it all out now, and then we'll go to our other judges. So kick us off.
Oh, why does this keep happening to me? Okay, I scored this image a 94, the highest gold that we can award. This image has instant, very dramatic impact. It feels like an alien. The the shapes that this figure is making are so otherworldly. They are There's femininity in there. There is some sort of insecty shapes. The curves of either the breasts or the ribs that are happening in there are just so unique and interesting. And then you zoom in to the sort of head area of the figure, and you do get these real little human elements that are coming through. You can just make out a nipple of a breast on one side, and then you can see some hair in the red part at the top there. There's a love heart sort of a shape going on with the red, and color-wise between the bright cyans at the bottom, I just think that it's all really cleverly put together. I don't know whether this image is the result of a really happy accident from some extremely experimental lighting in a studio shoot, but I think that this is a really exciting image, and I really think that it deserves to be talked about and hopefully rewarded.
Excellent. Thank you, Amber. And I'm glad you got all out because you have no right of reply, Amanda, and we're going to come to you next, please.
Really interesting points there, Amber. I'm sorry, I saw it slightly differently. I've scored it 76. I'm definitely willing to listen, but it sort of came down for me, firstly, fantastic use of this really grotesque shape. What is it? Is it a piece of meat? What we know it's a human form, but it's quite surreal. The main things that I felt hard to resolve were the nature of the color scheme. I feel that there's a disconnect between this sort of grotesque nature, and then you've got this really sort of vibrant cyan blue in the background. I would have loved to have seen something a little bit more garish. And also there is some fabric at the bottom of the feet, which I find a little bit disconcerting, and it sort of takes me away from this ethereal, weird look and back into the reality of how it was creative, along with the white in the background that's sort of coming down the image. I can't understand why that's there. It just doesn't sort of fit with the image.
Thanks, Mandarin. Charmaine, I might come to you next for a comment, please.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I think visually, first time I saw it, impact is really great. I just found some of the rectangular long little pieces of white coming through the blue kind of distracting. And possibly just in the fine tuning of it. I think that it's got great merit. I think it's certainly grabs your attention. I'm not sure the base color is the right tone for it, but I'm listening to other judges as well. I did score 85.
All right, excellent. I'm going to go to a couple more judges because this is such a wide scoring range. So Vanessa.
I was just trying to raise my hand then too. Look, it's good. What I like about when we challenge is that we get time to spend with an image, because sometimes it's really hard to make that decision really quickly about where it sits. I've come to the conclusion that maybe it's a story about dysmorphia, a sense of confusion about body image and that sort of thing. So I can see it would have real use. I can see like a bondage down in the feet. So or being held back. So I'm getting more and more story out of it that I didn't get initially. So in that sense, I suppose I'm warming to it. Does it mean that I I don't want to see a little bit more detail. No, I'd still like to see a little bit more of that confusion in the body contortion and up around the head. I'd love to see a little bit of human element up at the top.
Excellent. Thanks, Vanessa. Lisa, did you have any final comments to add just quickly?
Again, just coming back to everything earning its place in a frame, and I'm just feeling that for me, I'm seeing this very much as it is a photo. I see the technique, I see the model, I see the fabric, and I'm not taken away into the other space. I see very much the construct of the image, but I appreciate the time to focus further on the narrative, and I'm disappointed we won't have a right of reply, but I've observed, listened to everything all my fellow judges have said as well, so thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. You'll have to pretend you can hear Amber's right of reply, and we can ask all judges to rescore, please. Which includes you, Amber.
So
just be careful. You have
I had to use my same score.
You may rescore. That's one of the benefits of an automatic challenge. You don't get a right of reply, but you are allowed to increase your or decrease or change your score. All right, we have moved up several points into silver with distinction, 86. Excellent conversation, team. That was great. Let's go on to our next image, please. And we have an 81 silver award. Lisa, could I get a comment from you, please?
Thanks, Chris. I think this is spot on in silver. We've got some really well-managed technique. Post-production is very sympathetic to the subject matter. It's been well seen. It's been well framed. For me, to take that into that next level for the photographer, to move them up into the silver with distinction, if that's correct, just the person isn't exciting. We just needed that human, the main human figure there to give us some magic, to give us something. I've heard my fellow judges refer to it as a cookie or something like that, but just to elevate that into something more magical, because it is very magical to start with. So well done. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. Next image, please. And we have an 83 silver award. Congratulations to the entrant. Amber, do you have a comment for the photographer?
Yes, I do. This is a really beautiful and creative portrait image, and well done on the compositing that you've done here. One of the things that I really struggle with in this image is how the hair appears to be one big solid mass, and we can see a darker background color behind that hair. So just take a little more care with your compositing to try to make those things as realistic as possible, and don't be afraid of using transparency and layers and a little more attention to detail with those areas. But well done.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amber. Next image, please. And we have an 81 silver award. Amber's making a face.
Oh, sorry. I would like to challenge this image, please.
Challenge away.
Okay. The reason that I want to challenge this is because I have put this into the silver with distinction range, because I have seen so many photos of dandelions, and this is the most original interpretation of a dandelion that I have ever seen. It has got a crazy surrealist vibe about it, and I just think that it deserves to be rewarded for its originality. Talk to me.
Excellent. Thanks, Amber. Let's go to Mandarin for a comment, please.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Amber. It's especially in the center, it's almost alien-like. It's like this little alien pod and egg. It makes me think of the movie. Where it, and I scored it 76. A couple of things that let it down for me, and this is just a personal attention to detail. There was, I'm not sure if it's a stem, a leaf, that there was something that towards the bottom of the round shape within the dandelion itself that I would have loved to have seen removed. It just keeps distracting my attention. Also around the dandelion and the stem itself, there seems to be a little bit of unresolved. I'm not sure if the photographer has placed that background onto it or if they've darkened the background, but there's just a little bit of finesse that I think could be improved.
Excellent. Thanks, Mandy. Let's go to Charmaine, please, for a comment.
Yes, I think you're quite right, Amber. It's definitely a different way of seeing a dandelion, and I like the scientific feel of it. However, I feel the clarity in the center is not there as much as it could be for such a scientific looking image. And even the stem, it sort of looks like there's some sort of funny color tones in there that doesn't give proper clarity where it finishes in the image. But yeah, I think it's yeah, I scored it 81. Great potential.
Excellent. Thanks, Charmaine. Back to you, Amber.
Sure. Okay, Shani, I see a lot of clarity in the center of that image, and that's one of the parts of the image that I really like the most. It just keeps drawing my eye back in there. However, I really do agree with you on the stem. I think the stem lets maybe the rest of the beauty of this image down. Mandarin, the little tendril that you can see in the bottom there is just a nod to the fact that this is something that has come from nature, and nature is imperfect. It allows us to see that this is a dandelion, even though it's represented as something totally alien-like and completely different. In the open category, we need to be rewarding creativity and originality. And I just think that this is an incredibly original and creative illustration of something that is usually such a cliche in photographs, and I really applaud the photographer for that. I'm not asking for gold, I'm just asking to come up to silver distinction.
Excellent. Thank you, Amber. You're going to keep your score locked in. Everyone else can rescore, please. And we have moved a couple of points up to 83, a strong, solid silver award. Fantastic. A good conversation, too. We're going to do a little judge change. Charmaine, we're going to give you a break for a little bit. And Naomi, let's bring you back to the panel, please. And if we could have our next image. Judges, please. We got it. 86, silver with distinction, if we're going to stay there. Naomi, you got to come off mute. And are you challenging?
Okay.
Let's do it.
This image has been created using something that is completely liquid, that's completely non-solid, and it's created this, using a technique, using high-speed photography, and actually really, really, really clever lighting, and the highlight shadow control on the subject, which actually just makes it look like a mushroom. And when you first look at it, you go, it's a mushroom. And you go, actually, no, it's not. It's liquid. It's liquid. And there probably was a certain level of a lot of experimentation um, to actually ultimately produce this. But I think that this is really original. This is got absolutely just technically, I can't fault this. Highlight, shadow, detail is all there. And the simple fact that we're looking at something that's actually completely fluid. It's not something that you can construct and then go, cool, I've got this great mushroom shape and now I'm going to take a photo. This is to produce this with such, I'm going to say perfection. Maybe it's an overuse of the word, but it's definitely deserving of coming up into the gold range.
Thanks, Naomi. Amber, let's come to you next, please.
Sure. I was actually one of the lowest scorers on this image, but I do feel all of that same excitement about this image as you do, Naomi. I just get Fantasia vibes from this, and I can hear Nutcracker music playing in my head with this dancing personified mushroom creature. I love it. However, the reason that I scored it in 84 was because when you zoom in, there was so much potential for lots of those little tendril elements to have just been beautifully sharp. And I feel that if they had been, I would be going so much higher with this image. But it was just those little craft elements that really kept me down, unfortunately. But I absolutely love the creativity of it, and I think the photographer should be really, really proud of what they've created.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amber. Lisa, do you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
Look, I really jumped in. I'm at the high end of silver with distinction, up at 88. And to me, it was a celebration of the medium itself. It reminds me of that a famous image of the milk drop coronet, where we really knew that photography could actually freeze movement. So to me, it's actually a story about the medium of photography itself. And I'm totally on board with Fantasia, with this character dancing. The craft for me is not as important as the impact and the conversation that this has raised for me with the medium itself. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lisa. Naomi, let's come back to you for a right of reply.
Yeah, I can, taking on board all of your comments. With regards to the sharpness, I think that everything that is important is sharp. So we've got everything towards the front plane of the object is all totally sharp. There's beautiful highlights where the two different colors of where the pink and the blue meet. That creates that, really accentuates that mushroom shape. And I think this is really fun and ethereal and very, very creative and very original, and yeah, definitely worthy of a much higher score.
All right, thanks, Naomi. We'll lock you in at 91. Other judges, please rescore now. And we've moved up a couple of points, 88, silver with distinction. So good work, Naomi. Every point counts. We always say that in awards. Every point counts. Let's have our next image, please. All right, we have an initial score of 84, and Naomi's making the face someone makes when they challenge a lot. So, Naomi, I'm assuming you're going to want to challenge this.
Yeah, I do. I do. You guys are going to be so sick of me.
Not at all.
Right. This is quirky, it's ethereal, it's poetic, it's fun. You get this sense of, okay, this guy wants to fly and he wants to achieve his dreams, and he's there standing on that diving board, waiting for the moment to when he's going to take off. And this has just got such a beautiful, just poetic, illustrative feel. The texture of the image is gorgeous. The detail in the character is divine. The expression on his face is priceless, and I think this is really, really exceptional storytelling. So I'm going to stop there, and someone else can say something.
Excellent. All right, Lisa, I'm going to come to you down at the other end of the scale.
Naomi, I wasn't sure how to make sense of the different elements that are in the composition, so I'll look forward to you speaking on that. I sensed there were two horizon lines. And again, I always come back to when you're building an image in the open category, every single element has to earn its place. So I'm not sure why the boat is there. I'm not sure why the tree line is there, but there's another tree line. Understand that he's blowing out to try and, what's he doing? Is he blowing the kite himself? Did he let go of the kite? I just need those elements resolved, but it's quirky, it's beautiful, it's very engaging. So I'm really open to coming up.
Thanks, Lisa. Mandarin, let's come to you next.
What Lisa said about the horizons, but one thing I will go up on is that it's like the Birdman rally. If you look at his expression, he really wants to take off, but look at the puff puff of that contraption. It's like he's just going to land in the water. So the humor of it is definitely there for me. It is just that horizon, but it is a beautiful composition.
Excellent. Thanks, Mandy. Amber, did you have anything quickly you wanted to add?
Just very quickly, I think I was actually on the lower end, but I think that now that I've had a little longer to sit with it, the narrative that I get from this is like a mad inventor, because he can't actually really decide whether he wants to swim or fly. And I think that that's a reason for the topsy-turvy multiple horizon line. He's just a bit mad and everything's upside down. So that's what I wanted to add.
All right. Thanks, Amber. Naomi, back to you.
Yeah, I actually think that this is a curving, snaking river, and I think that there's a little point that sits perfectly compositionally in that bottom third, which draws your eye to the character, and that the next point that is in beyond him in the background, that's exactly where the horizon line sits. I think the boat is there to reassure us that that is actually water that goes all the way from the bottom third to that top third. And I think he's actually ready there with his flippers, knowing that maybe he may not be totally successful with his rocket contraption, but that he's ever hopeful. And I think that this character lives his life with his glass half full.
Well, thanks, Naomi. Naomi, you're going to keep your score at 92. Everyone else, you can please rescore. And we had quite a bit of movement up to 87, silver with distinction. Excellent work, team. It's really good to see. Let's go into our next image, please. All right, we have an 81 silver award. Amber, could you make a comment for the photographer, please?
Yeah, sure. Congratulations on the silver award. Just this is a beautiful portrait of this girl. You need to just take a little more care with the compositing of all of those elements together. A lot of the leaves feel very composited in there, and just really take care with hair and flyaway hairs. Sometimes leaving little imperfections like flyaway hairs in there can just really help to add to the authenticity of an image. Congratulations and keep going.
Excellent. Thanks, Amber. We're going to do a little judge change. We're going to do a Kiwi swap. So Amber, you can have a break. And Craig, let's bring you back onto the panel, please. And then let's have our next image. We have an 83 silver award. Are we all happy with that?
My challenge?
Craig, you can't.
Scoring, I can't.
But someone else can.
I
Vanessa,
will.
yeah, thanks, Vanessa. Take it away.
Yeah. I even wondered if I was being a little bit stingy in my marking of this one, because it's got great impact and it's got fantastic detail, and the further I look into it, the more and more I'm seeing. And you see a bit of a desolate landscape, and maybe the dead trees indicates something to do with our climate, but it's got a simple beauty about it, and being that about those layers, I almost feel like it's ripped paper, like it's not, but that's what it gives, that impression of ripped paper. I've got a depth, so I've got a real artistic feel from it, watercolory kind of feel down the bottom, and so I'm drawn into it. So I want to stay there and keep looking, and that to me is what's really important about this category, is a chance to express an emotion, or a story. In this case, I'm talking about climate change, but they've probably got a different story to tell. Beautifully handled, really delicately handled. I could imagine this in a print on beautiful paper. It'd be stunning. Tell me what you don't like.
Thanks, Vanessa. Lisa, I'm going to come to you next. You're on the other end of the scale.
Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, Chris. Vanessa, a little bit like yourself, I was on the fence, but I was on the fence at the lower end. I'm sitting in just the top of highly commended. I know I've underscored. I couldn't reconcile this is printily. Didn't feel it translated well to the screen environment. I could imagine this as a beautiful print, even with some damage. I mean, that water damage would have looked exquisite. We could have had a conversation around that sort of aspects as well. So for me, I couldn't reconcile the sharpness in the digital area, of the sharpness of the trees, the softness of the presentation, or implied and faux printing presentation. I just couldn't reconcile the post-production treatment with the subject matter and the presentation. So really open to coming up.
Thanks, Lisa. Craig, let's go to you next, please.
Let me see if I can help you with some of that, Lisa, because I see so much and I can interpret this in so many ways. I think first up, we're looking at an image which is depicting nature. And if you're looking at the birds and you zoom in a little bit closer, they're shags. And I believe that the top shags on the tree are shagging, and the other birds are looking away, that are sat there. And then you've got nature and life carrying on with the other birds flying around. And then it's kind of seeping out of its environment onto the spread of where it's kind of looks like it's water damage, nature seeping into life again, where you've got this kind of blackened trees that maybe speak to forest fires, and that haziness perhaps is like the smokiness, and then the water seeping out. So we're talking about climate change as has already been said, but you know, fire and water, floods and fires and all of that kind of thing. So I kind of read that into it. And I just think that as a piece and as a graphic, it's really quite striking, but also I think it's been beautifully done. I scored it 86, and I really think that I've underscored there, and I'm glad that we're talking about it and have some more time with it.
Excellent. Thanks, Craig. Vanessa, let's come back to you for a right of reply.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Craig, for your words there. I look that if I deal with the sharpening first, I can get a sense of, you know, maybe you're saying it's a bit over sharpened in those areas, but I think that helps to delineate the depth, because we've got that real striking sharpness on those elements that we want to spend some time on, and then it does get, you know, a little bit less sharp as we go to the next background, and then by the time we get to the end, we're in the hazy southern hemispheric kind of atypical feel that we've probably all seen when we've been out there on the road. And I think that you know, the birds give us a sense of life. I think that it's got that real sense of story I can't say the word, encapsulation,
Encapsulation.
where we're being held because of the way that it's been presented. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful image, and it's one that will stay with me. And usually if an image stays with me, I know that I have to fight for it.
Thanks, Vanessa. Vanessa, you're going to keep your score locked at 88. Rest of the judges, please rescore now. And we've got a little bit of movement up to 84, silver award. So good job, team. Let's have our next image, please. All right, we have a score of 85, silver with distinction. And Vanessa, could I get a comment from you, please?
Of course, I'm really rewarding the story here. It's just so gorgeous, and you know, the diver has gone down to live with his mermaid bride. I love all that. It's just a tiny bit clumsy in the cutting out, and if it had have been just a little bit more resolved in that sense of the objects into the space, then I would have definitely gone into gold.
Brilliant. Thanks, Vanessa. Let's go on to our next image, please. And we have an 83 Silver Award. Congratulations to the entrant. Lisa, I'd love a comment from you about this one, please.
Thanks, Chris. I like to make notes as I'm judging, just in case I'm called on. So I had just finished my notes. What I really like about this is abstract is really hard. Do you mean it's really hard? But what you've been able to do is give us a way into the image. I found that it's we've got recognizable shapes and colors. When we zoom in, we get rewarded. There's depth. There's a tonal palette. There's light and shadow. So I actually found it a really accessible abstract image and really enjoyable, and could very much see this as a work of art on a wall. So congratulations to the photographer.
Thanks, Lisa. Great comment. We're going to do a little judge change. So, Vanessa, you have been a champion. You've been on for every single image. Let's give you a little break. And Charmaine, let's bring you back onto the panel. And could we have our next image, please? All right, we have an 84 Silver Award. Congratulations to the photographer. Craig, I would love a comment for for the photographer from you, please.
I was just raising my hand for a comment. I really enjoy this. I think it's got a beautiful sense of movement, but it feels immediately kind of recognizable. I love that yellow line running through that gives it a kind of Japanese kintsugi kind of feeling. I thought that to take it a bit further, I scored 84. To take it a bit higher, I found the white line at the top of that like ridge line with that white and the very dark shading there a little bit clumsy, and maybe that could be addressed, and I would have taken it much higher.
Excellent. Thanks, Craig. Small judge change again. Lisa, we're going to give you a little break. And Amber, let's get you back onto the panel. And then let's go on to our next image, please. And we're about 2/3 of the way through the open category for the 2025 Australian Photographic Prize. All right, and we have an 82, a Silver Award. Thanks, everyone. Naomi, can I get a comment from you, please?
Sure. This is beautiful lighting, so beautifully controlled. And when you zoom in and have a look at the detail that's actually being captured in there, it's actually really very textural and very exquisite. I think to improve this a little bit more, perhaps explore a different crop. The flowers that are at the base of the image, perhaps they don't all need to be there. So maybe pulling it back and bringing it a little bit more simple. But yeah, absolutely beautiful control and lighting, detail, and everything is there. It's just divine. So congratulations to the photographer.
Thanks, Naomi. Let's have our next image, please. Scores, please, judges. All right, we have a 79 highly commended, but with one judge on 89, that's an automatic challenge. So we're actually going to go to an auto challenge. Naomi, you're going to kick us off, and you're not going to get a right of reply. So let's hear what you have to say.
That's okay. I don't need a right of reply. On first look at this image, you go, oh, okay, that's a really great landscape and gives us a sense of space and a sense of scale. And then you see the elephant, and you go, actually, all right, this takes a sense of space and scale and everything to the next level. It's got beautiful, there's just a beautiful mood about it. You can see where you are. It's got a lovely story with the elephant reaching up into the trees there, and an elephant's not actually a small animal, and in this particular image it actually makes this elephant look like it's really tiny. So these trees and this whole landscape and everything is just huge and impactful, and what an honor to experience something like this. So yeah, I think that this is definitely worthy of sitting up in the Silver with Distinction range. So I'd love to hear what the other judges have to say.
Thanks, Naomi. Amber, let's go to you next, please.
Sure. Unfortunately, I was sort of down the other end of the scale. I'm on 78 with this image, and the initial impact that I received was really awesome. But upon closer inspection, when you zoom in to 100%, there's some quite obvious cutting out, compositing glitches around the elephant, which just sort of ruined the magic of this image a little bit for me. I also really think that in a category like this, you have got the opportunity to work with the lights and darks and dodging and burning, and really just sort of making the landscape a little bit more magical, which I feel like is a little bit of a lost opportunity in this image for me.
Thanks, Amber. Charmaine, you had some comments to add. Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Yes, I think the idea of it's really lovely. I'm not sure whether the composition is adding to the image where the elephant's right on the far left. I think the levels could be a little bit darker, just that would make the trees more consistent from the left to the right hand side. The leaves are much warmer and a bit deeper on the right. And then that would make the gray elephant stand out a little bit more, even if the trunks are a little bit darker. So in this category, you do have those chances to do that sort of thing. So I think that would really enhance the image and take it further.
All right, everyone. Thanks for those comments. Now it's an auto challenge, so all judges can now rescore, please. And we stay put right on 79, highly commended. Thanks, everyone. Excellent conversation. I'll have our next image, please. All right, and we have an 81 silver award. Craig is taking a big drink of water so that he can get ready with his challenge.
Just drinking tea. So I am at 88 with this, and I just think it's really, really exquisite and really quite clever. The angles and the lines, how you've got that sharp point at the top of the red triangle, and then it kind of softens a little bit, and then the softness of the umbrella and the person, just it's like the three stages that gives it really beautiful depth as well. The red, green and blue, very subtle color harmony present in the image as well. And yeah, I just think it's really lovely, and I'm glad we get to talk about it.
Excellent. Thanks, Craig. Amber, I might come to you next, please.
Yeah, I am on 77 in the highly commended range, and I appreciate those things about this image as well, Craig. But for me, I feel like this is such a lost opportunity with the figure in there. I think compositionally, the figure is right in the perfect place, and color-wise, everything's working so beautifully. But the figure is just so mundane compared to uh, what it could have been. And the other thing that really bothers me is that in a category like this, you have got the opportunity to spot and clean up the little dirty imperfections around the landscape, particularly on the ground there, and on some of those parts of the walls. And I just find those bits too distracting.
Thanks, Amber. Mandarin, let's come to you next, please.
I find this an intriguing image. Oftentimes, when you're looking at architectural images, it's quite architecture can be very cold and flavorless. But I wonder if the photographer is trying to create a narrative with that lady whose expression you can't see. She's quite statuesque in front of what is almost like this rich, voluptuous lips in the background. I find that quite feminine. So I'm wondering if there's a statement there. So as far as narrative, I'm quite intrigued. I scored at 82 and I'm willing to come up.
All right, thanks, Mandarin. Naomi has a tiny, tiny comment she needs to say.
I wanted to add, momentarily when saw this compositionally, this is absolutely exquisite. The choice of color, it's got a real like the Mae West lips, Salvador Dali couch feel about it. But the figure, she's wearing a red belt, and her red belt should pop and come out a little bit more. And this just has so much potential. And so, yeah, I wanted to say huge congratulations to the photographer. And yeah, so I'll shut up now.
Thanks, Naomi. Back to you, Craig, for a right of reply. And you're on mute, Craig.
Sorry. Yeah, Amber, I hear what you're saying with the spotting and things. I wish that had been addressed especially in a category like this. If it was, I'd have been going up even higher. I love the mundane kind of anonymity of the character in this space. I kind of saw the shapes of what a couple of you have said as lips as being an eye. I feel like it's got almost this kind of Big Brother kind of thing going on. That there's like that's the eye line and the eyelashes on that curve. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to interpret this, I think, and enjoy it. And I'd love to see it get a few more points.
Brilliant. Thanks, Craig. Craig, you're going to keep your score at 88. Everyone else, rescore now, please. All right, we've moved up a couple of points to 83, a solid silver award. So good conversation, everyone. Let's go to our next image, please. All right, we have a score of 79, highly commended. Craig, you're very close to the average there. Have you got a comment for the photographer?
Yeah, I absolutely love the top two images in this. I think they've got a lot of movement and abstraction almost, and they've got a lot of feeling in them. And then the bottom image doesn't have that same texture or even the same kind of tonal range, and it's very much a literal portrait. And I just didn't think it sat well together as a trio of images. So perhaps think about what you could do to replace that bottom image and give it that kind of emotional impact that the top two images have.
Excellent. Thanks, Craig. Next image, please. probably good if I come off mute. Isn't that right? We have an 84 silver award. Amber, do you have some feedback for the photographer here?
I do. I think that this is a really abstract portrait that has just got so much potential. I really love the technique that you've used, but I just feel with something like this, you have missed an opportunity to inject a lot more movement into this particular portrait. I'm not sure that the sitting on the box element is the most successful pose for this. And I think, yeah, I just think that you could push this technique so much further.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amber. Let's have our next image, please. And we have a score of 78, highly commended. Pretty even scoring around the panel. Naomi, do you have any feedback for the photographer on this one?
Yeah, we're sitting here in the open category, and while this is a gorgeous landscape capture, and you have a real sense of the environment, and there's a lot of history and story in this space, and it would be so lovely to see maybe a little bit more of that story come through and be injected into this image, because it has so much opportunity to be lifted a little bit more and on a creative context. But everything else, like lighting and everything's lovely mood and energy in this. So congratulations to the photographer.
Brilliant. Thanks, Naomi. Next image, please. And we have an 80, a silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. And Amber, you've got your hand up to make a comment.
Congratulations on the silver award. This is a beautiful and very competently created image that celebrates symmetry. With an image like this in the open category, we are looking for creativity, and we need, in order to score something higher, we need another element in there, a cookie, an Easter egg, something to break the symmetry and give us something more.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amber. And Amber, we're going to give you a little rest from the panel so you can have a break. And Lisa, let's bring you back on, please. And then if we could have our next image, please. And we have a 79, highly commended. Craig, may I get a comment from you, please?
Yeah, I think that you've got a really lovely diagonal in this and a beautiful color palette. I think if you want to just consider how to refine this, that point of the ship, if that was going directly into that top diagonal, it might make the composition feel a little bit more flowing. And then down in the bottom right, you've got that wave coming and breaking down there. If that was a little bit further into the image, it would be part of the image and make it feel like movement. With it being such a small part in the corner, it just holds our attention down there and drags the eye. So I think a couple of things you could maybe think about when capturing this kind of thing.
Brilliant. Thanks, Craig. We're going to do one more little judge change. Mandy, you can have a break. And Vanessa, let's bring you on, please, for our next image, please. We have an 82 silver award. So congratulations to the entrants. Lisa, would love some feedback on this image from you, please.
Chris, I'd just like to provide very brief conceptual feedback, and then I'd ask you to call on another judge perhaps for some technical feedback. So conceptually, I really enjoy this image. I feel like we're at a bit of a pastel kind of flower disco, but there's that lovely tension of it being soft flowers, but they're beautiful. For me, they're beautifully lit. I love the story and I love the potential narrative, and I find it a very enjoyable, creative way to present this subject matter. And I would like to pass to another judge for some technical feedback, please.
Okay, Vanessa, have you got something you could add?
Very briefly, because this has got so many this image could be used for so many applications. I see it being used in media posts or magazines, etc., even turned into puzzles. But because you've got the ability to do it, I'd just go in and spot clean some of the little tiny blemishes and details off some of those flowers, so that we're even focused more on the center of them, and just the flower on the top left just loses its clarity a little in there. If that was brought out, I think it would add a little bit more punch like the right hand side has.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Let's have our next image, please. Scores, please, judges. And we have an 80 silver award. Lisa, you haven't had time to make notes yet. Can I get a comment from you anyway?
I did jot a few things down. So straight away, who doesn't love a silhouette? So I commend the photographer on using that wonderful technique. I feel we don't see it often enough. For me, an area for improvement is when you move into the silhouette sort of space, you're very suggestive. You're not literal, you're not representational. You're using line and shape and outline to convey a message. And I felt that every element in the image worked. And back to my idea about everything needs to earn its place, I felt that very real, crisp, clear ocean in the background, just behind the skirt of the young girl. For me, it just was too real, and it took that away. So I'd encourage you always to think what's the story, what's my mood, what's my intent, does every element belong? And it's not even just literally in the crop, but what is the technique, and how can I use even post-production to elevate and support and be sympathetic to what I'm trying to convey. Really enjoyable. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lisa. Next image, please. All right. We have an 89, silver with distinction. And we have a couple of judges on 92. Vanessa raised her hand very fast. Vanessa, the challenge is all yours.
Yes, well, because, with conviction, you see, what is not to love about this image? I am incredibly envious that I've not made it myself, and that I've never thought of something like this. It's simple, but so creative. This to me is a cityscape, but it's made of all elements of found objects. So I can see a gate, I can see a fence, I can see a dirty wall, I can see a grate, I can see, I'd need to look at it forever, which is another thing that I love in an image. If it draws me in and keeps me there, I'm sold. And so we've got a magnificent but gentle cityscape, and then the reflection in the water, suggested water, and it's magical. It's so delicate. It's so well perceived, and I'm absolutely imploring you to reward a really fantastic concept that I've never seen before.
So thanks, Vanessa. Lisa, I'm going to come to you next, please.
Just quickly, Chris, I feel I've underscored. Vanessa, I will just get you to comment on one thing, is the area that pulled me back just on impact was just the nature of the implied water. I didn't feel it was resolved enough. I didn't feel it was perhaps refined enough. But I really feel I have underscored. So very much listening.
All right, brilliant. Let's go to Charmaine next.
Yes, I commend the photographer for this image. I love the image. I love the deliberate detail in the image. The only thing I'm having trouble with is more space at the bottom to really appreciate the reflection. I just feel the whole image is quite crammed. And I think it would just be so beautiful to appreciate the reflection and have more space for that. But I'm listening as well to other judges.
Okay, Naomi, we're going to come to you since you're in the 90s as well.
Yeah, this is just so clever. And totally, when I saw this, and I went, oh my gosh, looks like there's even like a radiator from a car texture with the grate and the and what a magical, imaginative way to use texture and texture of objects that are in themselves quite harsh and cold, and then you put them together and create this cityscape, which actually looks a little bit soft and a little bit poetic and a little bit magical and ethereal, and added that softness of the suggested symbolic water and the reflection to suggest a different environment where probably most of these objects have actually been found, but it suggests a different environment to what they probably look and feel like as their actual existence. So yeah, this is definitely worthy of being in the gold range. I think that yeah, it is an outstanding image, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Thanks, Naomi. Vanessa, we're going to come back to you for a right of reply, please.
Unmuting. Yeah, so Charmaine, I actually agree with you. I think the crop at the bottom could just give that tiny bit more breathing space, but they've obviously deliberately chosen this crop to make the greatest, what they feel is the greatest impact to this story, and going with a bit of a panoramic was obviously the best way, I say, but just a little bit more breathing room down the bottom. But if we move on from that, there's just a delicate texture in this image the whole way through so that we can read right to the edges of the story. I think the fact that it's got this flowing water and maybe that feels slightly unresolved is that it is ethereal. It's not a realistic scene. So that to me just helps to, it's a deliberate choice to let us look to see what these objects actually are made of, so we might not get confused and think it is so realistic. And then I also think that the subtleness in the elements is giving us that real great sense of depth. We're drawn all the way down to the back of this image, and just as you would in normal landscape photography, things in the distance look a little hazier or a little further away because they're delicately hazed, then this has been given that same treatment. That it's just that ethereal nature is so beautifully handled on top of letting us dream and imagine what this actual scene could be, which is to me interpreted as a beautiful cityscape.
Right, thanks, Vanessa. Vanessa, you're going to keep your score at 92. Everyone else, please rescore now. And we have a 92, a gold award. Congratulations to the entrant. I feel pretty lucky because I actually get to see the scores coming in, unlike people at home. So I get to watch these numbers tumbling in, and I think I know what's going to happen before they all come in, which is pretty cool. Let's go on to our next image, please. All right, we have a score of 79. Naomi's making the hand motion, and I know if she wasn't muted, I know what she'd be saying right now. Take it away, Naomi.
Pick me, pick me, pick me. Look, this just has this. It sort of takes you to another realm, and when you see these towers, which are just so, they're just so stark and geometric and finite, and then they extend up into the clouds, and almost you can allow yourself to take yourself to another realm. And okay, maybe you can imagine that these are rockets. Maybe my creative brain is going too far and taking this too far. But I think that this is just a clever little nod to something so mundane in a space where it can almost kind of transform into something else. And you can imagine that you can climb to the top of one of these things and the jet blasters are going to just fire and off you go up into space. And I think that that's it's just got a great strong story. And I'd like to, I can't find any technical issues with it which would make me feel that it should sit anywhere other than in the silver with distinction range.
Brilliant. Thanks, Naomi. Craig, you're at the other end of the scale. Can we get a comment from you, please?
Yeah, scored it 78, and I quite enjoy it for what it is, but I just feel like in this category, like Naomi said, imagination, and I feel like you could reimagine this in some way. I feel like this is very much as captured. The spacing between those three pieces, the you could play on the larger one. I don't know. There's something more to be seen, and then I really enjoy that soft gradient of the blue to the white from that perspective. But I did think that there was that kind of harsh blue line on the horizon that maybe had been kind of burned in a little bit to make that horizon line more obvious. And I did find that there's a little grey blob at the bottom of the image, kind of almost in the center of the clouds there, that just kind of held my eye down because it's so dark in amongst that lighter area, that there were just a couple of kind of technical things that I would like to see tidied up for me to have gone up into the silver range.
Okay, thanks, Craig. Charmaine, did you have any feedback on this image?
Yes, I like the simplicity of this image, and the color tone has been handled really nicely. However, I would like something more in the image to take me to I scored this 81, because to me, the right-hand side, there's nothing there. If there's just another little tower peeping up somewhere, just to give the reason for the image to be in the crop that it is in, I think would help this image a lot.
Excellent. Thanks, Charmaine. Naomi, back to you for a right of reply.
Yeah, the reason why I didn't push it higher into the silver with distinction or even into the gold is that I did totally agree with you, Charmaine, in terms of just needing something else in the story to elevate it to the next level. So I think that everything in there is just allows us to kind of, I guess, sit with these objects in a space and a place, and kind of let our imagination just go a little bit further. And yeah, I think we should reward the photographer for their efforts.
All right, thanks, Naomi. You're going to keep your score at 85. Everyone else, please rescore. Charmaine?
Oh, yeah, it did. All right.
All good. And we've moved up to an 81 silver award. Congratulations to the photographer and good work team. Speaking of good work team, everyone, that was our last image in the open category, which was just spectacular. I hope you've enjoyed listening to the judges talking about these images as much as I have. And I want to say pat on the back for time management, you guys, because we are bang on time for what is a really challenging category with so many challenges. So thanks everyone so much. And congratulations to all of the entrants that made the top 30. Robin, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris. Wow. Yeah, such a diverse category. Judges, you did amazing getting through and finding so many little bits of detail in the images to talk about. It really is that attention to detail that you highlight in the images that separates the highest scoring images. So well done. And thank you, Chris. Fantastic panel mentoring there. You were definitely incredibly eloquent throughout. So well done. Thank you also to our incredible entrants. Without your creativity and willingness to put yourselves out there, this event wouldn't even happen. So thank you for entering. If you didn't make the top 30 this year, take inspiration from what you've seen and bring it to your 2026 entries. Thank you to our technical crew and behind the scenes team, and of course our amazing sponsors, Nikon, AZO, KL, Gerdox, Ilford Photography Studies College and the Print Shop. And of course, the audience, thank you for being here and watching and supporting the Australian Photographic Prize. Don't forget, next Sunday, the 20th of July, 5 p.m. onwards, is our celebration event, so make sure you tune in then. And next up is our landscape category, which is starting in about an hour. So we hope you can join us then. And in the meantime, thanks for joining us for the open category.
photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they're so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
It's something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.